Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Boxing Legends Lounge. I am your host, Legend, and today we have a very, very special guest. This guy right here, he's a man of faith. He's out there, he's knocking people out. He said he's ready for the biggest and the baddest guy that's out there. He got 17 wins, 12 by KO, and only one loss. Ladies and gentlemen, Golden Boy promotional fighter. I would like to bring up to the stage Tristian Kalkreuth. How you doing, good brother?
I'm doing good, and thank you for having me on.
Likewise, champ. I appreciate your time, good brother. So listen, Tristian, you just came off a victory May of 2026 against Marco
Mhm.
Canito. You caught a was it a stoppage? It was a stoppage, right?
Yes, I knocked him
Yeah.
out the sixth round.
Yeah, 6 rounds. Got him out there in the
Mhm.
6th round. How are you feeling up to date? I know it was just recent, but
Mhm.
how are you feeling?
I feel good, man. My knuckles a little bit sore, but outside of that, I'm good. It's good for me to be back here with my wife, my family. It's just a good thing to be able to go out and pick up a check and come home and just go and splurge it a little bit, and take care of my family.
Man, talk about that real quick, right? I think that's very, very important, right? So you're a man of
Mhm.
faith, you are very family oriented, and you're a
Mhm.
businessman at the same time. And I see the knuckles, champ. I ain't trying to get hit with none of them shots, man. but talk about that. How hard is it to separate? Is it hard to separate family, business, and fighting? Is it hard to not bring
Mhm.
the fighter home at times?
100%. I think like when me and my wife got home, we kind of got in a little argument.
Mm,
But we, quickly resolved it and things like that. And that's just because um, it's dangerous out there in boxing, and for me, I've been out almost 3 months preparing for my last fight,
mm.
just consistently training. So it's hard to go and be in a arena where people you just hear a bunch of noise and the coaches are yelling advice at you. You hear the bell ringing. It's kind of chaotic to come back here home, and if we're to kind of be kind of subtle. It's like a transition for me. So it's just like it's just really like learning how to transition, especially for me. Um, like I said, being in the 3 month period camp and then putting in all that work and things like that and all the sparring and stuff, and then coming home for me coming back to daddy daycare, So that's an adjustment, but we got good people in my corner, good people in my life, good counselors, so and advisors. So they help me and my wife, they steward me and my wife and help us make better decisions each time. So
Man, I commend you for that because a lot of fighters, they tend, or
mm,
just people in general, right? They tend to not want to go to the therapy or have
mm,
mentors and stuff like that, and kind of try to handle it themselves. And I see now I'm starting to see fighters open up a little bit more about having mentorship
mm.
and having therapy. Uh, how conducive is that for you as a fighter?
I think it's to each his own. I think for me, I just kind of put on a certain amount of responsibility where it could be over pressuring and overwhelming.
Mm,
So I have to be able to um, go on to my day to day things and be able to keep my same amount of composure. For example, like my wife is she's a full stay at home mother, full stay at home wife, and knowing that if anything goes wrong in my path, it's going to affect her, it's going to affect my daughter. So
mm,
I think that's the main thing. Is to each his own, but to get the help that you need. And being just because someone goes to therapist doesn't mean like they're a crazy person,
right.
because there's different levels, of therapy, and it's helping you. For me, I go to counselor or I'm going to therapy. It helps me to balance the responsibilities I have in my life, without because all it takes is for one moment for me to just feel overwhelmed or just lose it, and then whether that's in my career, whether that's in my day-to-day life with my wife or whatever it is, for everything to come crashing down.
Mm.
So I try to prevent that, and I try to continue to get the right advice so I can make the right steps each and every day.
You know, I commend all the fighters, right? Because the fans only see but so much. They don't see the behind the scenes and like you said, 3 months training camp, putting your body through a lot of strenuous activities. Your
Mhm.
body's going through things. Injuries happen in camp. You have relationships. You a father. You a husband. There's so many hats that you wear, and the fans don't really get a chance to see that. They just see the fighter on fight night. And then now you have
Mhm.
to deliver as far as entertainment purposes. So my question to you is, do you find it hard sometimes to have to deliver, or is it like this is natural instincts? Once you get to the ring, everything, you block out all the noise.
Yeah. So one thing that a coach told me, which is my one of my former strength and conditioning coaches, his name was Larry Wade. He told me like whenever I clock in, like all the distractions have to cease. This is business. So
Mm,
like for me before, as I told you, I was younger, I was 17, 19, I wasn't mature as I am at 24 years old. Um, I would let that my livelihood, um, distract me from my business. And when I
mm,
would go in the gym, my mind wouldn't be there. I want to be able to give my full workout, my full performance. And so when he told me that, it really resonated. And he told me that, and another thing he told me was like, you don't get to choose when you want to be a man, you know?
mm.
And like that was something that really stuck with me to this day. And like Deontay Wilder said, to this day. but but yeah, so that really resonated with me. And now I'm able to like when I'm in the gym, I clock in. Whatever I'm going through, I clock in. Like there's no emotion, there's nothing personal, it's just business. And then I was able to transition that all the way to my fight and my recent fights. And I feel like that's why I've been able to have the performance that I've had. So
Well, listen, champ, you're doing it because you're on a non-winning streak right now.
mm,
Your last loss came from Demetrius Banks in
mm,
2021. So that was a while ago. So you've been on this
mm,
winning streak. But if we could go back real quick and you take me back to your pro debut, age of
mm,
17 years old, just coming out of the amateurs, right? Is there
mm.
is there high expectations for you? Do you feel the pressure now going into the pros, and now you got now you got your pro debut. How was that moment for you?
Yeah, so my pro debut, I remember I was putting on the gloves and I was like, man, I'm gonna get hit with these. And then I was like, no, I think I'm gonna be doing the hitting in it. So like it was like a whole different experience. And then, just going in there, like I said, the loneliest part for me was right before I walked out to the ring. That was like the loneliest part. Like I think some people say that's the loneliest moment in sports or in boxing. The loneliest moment in boxing is right before you walk out. And then everyone's chanting sweet tea and this and that. And I went out there, I did my thing. And each fight, like there's never going to be a fight where you're not nervous, right? And I was told too, like if you're not nervous at all, then something is wrong. And
Mm,
so for me, I learned how to say, instead of fighting back the nerves, I learned how to understand and say, like, no, I am nervous, right? And how can I work through my nerves and still be effective? Because it's those nerves that make you sharp, that make you quick,
mm,
that it's a fight or flight. So it's like you either be burnt with the fire or you control the fire or you let it consume you. And I think that's something that Teddy Atlas said, or like he's like, we're firefighters. And I
yeah.
really, I really understood that. It's like you either control the flames or you let it consume you. And that's pretty much what
Mm,
nerves is. I remember when I was in amateurs and I was way better than this one dude I was fighting at ringside. And I was way better than him. And I just went out there, I was like I laid an egg, I was like super nervous and I couldn't perform. So like throughout my whole boxing career, it's been a battle between me and myself pretty much.
mm.
And I feel like I'm the only one that can stop me.
Man. So in other words, you recommend to all fighters embrace the nerves. Don't run away from the nerves. Don't shy away from the nerves. The nerves doesn't necessarily mean you scared. The nerves can actually keep you sharp if you allow it to.
Yeah, 100%. I think the more real you are with yourself, the more understanding. Because boxing is it's a scary sport. Like sometimes when I get in the ring, I am nervous. I am
Mm,
scared if I might lose or if this and that, but it's that intensity, that flame that puts a certain amount of heat under my butt that makes me perform even better, because boxing is a scary sport. I don't care any world champion out there. They can't fool us. Every fighter has felt that same experience that
mm,
I've had, that another fighter had, because at the end of the day, we're all human. We put on our pants through the same legs. We put on our shirts through the same arms. We all have the same experience, but it's about what makes the great ones is about harnessing those things and turning them and making it effective. So that's what I've learned is to not ignore the nerves, but embrace it and to in a sense conquer them, to control them and go out there and do what you train to do. The more prepared you are in training, um, the more higher success rate that you'll be when you do perform. Like the only reason people get like super super nervous is because they don't do enough time of preparation. But for me, it's
mm.
like the more prepared I am, the less nervous I am. So it's easier to control like the nerves I have.
What's that
So
saying? Proper preparation beats poor performance. I think that's the saying. I think that's the
absolutely,
quote. Yeah,
absolutely.
the great Mike Tyson. I remember him saying that he was nervous before his fights. But as he started to get closer, he started to conquer those nerves. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about when you say, you don't care. These fighters can't fool us. They all nervous before they get in the ring. And again, it's not necessarily saying that they scared of their opponent. Just they just got some nerves in them.
100%. I mean, um, I don't think that like as a fighter, hey, how you doing? I don't think as a fighter, like being like a like actual like contender, it's kind of well, I know I take that back. I was gonna say like I don't think any fighter's scared. No, I think there are fighters out there that could be scared of other fighters. But from my experience, I never been scared of another fighter. More so, I've been worried or nervous about if I don't do what I need to do. You know what I'm saying? So I'll wait, what was your question again? So because I want to make sure I answer it properly.
No, well, I was just basically saying, alluding to what
Mhm,
Mike Tyson has said, right? That when you said that the great fighters, even great fighters, they have nerves before they fight, and that's what made me think about Mike
mhm,
Tyson because he said before his fights he was nervous, but as he started to get closer to the ring, he started to
mhm.
conquer that fear. Then once he got
Yeah.
inside the ring, he was able to look his
Oh
opponents in the
yeah.
yeah. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember him saying that 100%. And the way he said it was more detailed and more written out. But
Yeah.
it's pretty much straight to the T on that. Like, that's what great fighters do. You're
Yes.
able to um conquer those flames and to put in this threshold and to be able to still stay composed and perform because a lot of times boxing is 80% mental. So like you could go through the preparation, you could be the most athletic person, but if your mindset is not there and you get in a ring, it's just going to go all the ways. So that's what I've learned. I mean, I've always been an athletic fighter, but now I'm like I work hard, I bust my butt. I'm consistent, and when I get into the ring, the week of the fight or the day before the fight, that's when I feel the most nerves and the most anxiety. And then for me, it's like my coach Ben told me this too. He was like, bro, he's like being nervous. No, Quincy told me this. He's like being nervous. He said that's okay. He said it's okay.
Mhm.
Like acknowledge it, but just don't let it consume you. Don't let it consume you. Don't let it overtake you. Nerves is a natural fight or flight reaction. So it's nothing wrong with being nervous, but there's something wrong with being scared. Okay, I don't know.
Well, Christian, let me ask you this, right? Because I know you when you talked about your pro debut, you mentioned the famous nickname Sweet Tea. How did
Mhm.
Sweet Tea come about? Right? I love tea too, by the way, champ. But
That's cool.
How did Sweet Tea come about?
Yeah, so I had this one coach way back in Texas. when I was an amateur, he called me that, right? He was like, they should call you Sweet Tea. I think his Ruben Yasasi, that was the coach. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but it didn't really stick. But I
Mm,
always had it in my mind. And then I trained with one of my former coaches, Ronnie Shields, and he put me on the phone with Sweet Pea Purnell Whitaker. And I remember I was talking to him and he was saying some great things. And I was like telling him, like, I was like a fan. I was like, I really like your defense. I watched all your defensive highlights and things like that. And then I had planned to meet him. But then on along the way to my pro debut, he ended up passing. So I was like,
mm.
man, that definitely was, definitely was a shock factor and a hurt, And I was like, I'm gonna go for Sweet Tea in honor of Pernell Whitaker. And then on the day of my fight, and I walked out, everyone was chanting like Sweet Tea, Sweet Tea. So I was just like, okay, I think this is my name now. Like, there's no change. Like, they didn't even call me my first name. They're just like, hey, after the fight, hey, Sweet Tea, hey, Sweet Tea. So I was just like, okay, I think this is like my name for like my career.
You definitely should keep it, Chick. You definitely should keep it. Now, let me ask you:
Yeah.
did it sink in at the moment? Did you realize it, or was it like an afterthought, or after fact, after the fight, where it kind of hit you?
Of the nickname?
Yeah.
It was after the fact because I literally had it for the sole purpose of just my pro debut. Like it was never a permanent name. And then afterwards, I was like, I think this fits me because sweet tea is also a Texas drink. And I was just like, I'm from Texas. I'm born and raised in Texas. And I was like, yeah, I think this is it. And then like every fan that DM'd me, supporter, like they just say, like, hey, what's up, sweet tea? And I was like, okay, man. Like even if I was to change my nickname, I think my fans would be mad at me. They would still call me Sweet Tea regardless. So I was just like, yeah, I think that's my name now.
Oh man, I love that. Now I know you mentioned Rodney Shields, and I know you also
Hmm.
did some work with Bomac. I know you have a new team currently right now.
Hmm.
If you can just briefly, just give us
Hmm.
just a little synopsis of what you was able to take away from each fighter, or I mean each coach, and then kind of make it whole to who you are now as a fighter.
Yeah, for me it was just experience,
Yeah.
experience, exposure, being exposed to the higher levels. Because I was a young kid, especially with Ronnie. I was working with Ronnie at 17. And I was in there with watching Jamal Charlo train, him work. So it really just built watching that build character in me. And then, working with Bomac was another experience. And the whole time for me, it just felt like everything in my career has came about a moment in time of everything I've experienced, everything I went through to be right here where I'm at. And we've seen that in my last performance. And I just been really, I always said I've been looking for a home. Like for these years in my career, I just always said I've been looking for a home, been looking for a home. And I found that. I feel like I truly believe that I found that with my dynamic that I have now with my coach, the head trainer, Ben Stanoff, my pops, Quincy, Coach Pete, Lester, like this is to me, this is a God-given team. And like I
Mm,
really trust in his divine planning because like my team they looked after me, like from financial burdens, from just advice, even some of them giving advice to me in my personal life. So like I have everything that connects like the relationship, the business side of it, the friendship, and I really see myself building with these people that are in my life for the next 5 to 6 years or however long I'm pro. So I feel like where I'm at now, it's like I'm in like like I say I'm in my prime.
mm. I love that. I love that,
Mm.
champ. Now, with boxing, it comes a lot of highs and lows, right?
Mm.
Wins and losses, and sometimes not feeling like you're getting the recognition that you deserve, and things of that
Hmm.
nature, right? So remember when you took your loss to Demetrius Banks, but
Hmm.
you had an injury that kind of delayed everything or derailed
Hmm.
the plans that night.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because I don't think people talk about that enough when these injuries happen, or certain things start to derail your plan a little bit. So talk to us
Hmm.
about that, the mindset of how you were during that time, and then now having to get back on your feet to get into these non-winning streaks that you have.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a growing moment. Especially during the time of boxing, then is if any fighter had a defeat, they weren't taken as serious.
Mm,
And I feel like now we're at where we're at in boxing. I feel like more fighters that are now facing each other, taking losses and bouncing back. And it's kind of going back to the Hagler Hearns and the Hagler versus Hearns era,
hmm
and that's what we like to see because I feel like Floyd Mayweather kind of came in like just the 50-0 and like it just kind of like put boxing at a state where fighters could only be seen if they're undefeated. And there's a lot of
hmm
fighters out here that might have 2 to 3 losses that truly have potential to be a world champion and could beat some of these world champions out here. So like I I want to get back to that state of boxing. Going back to that night, um, was just a freak accident.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for my shoulder, I would have definitely knocked him out. And even after the fight, he came up to me, he was like, "Yeah, man, you would have definitely got me. Like you definitely got me out of there." So it was one of those freak accidents. But if I was to lose, I'd rather lost that way. Because I threw out my shoulder. I fought the rest of the fight one arm. It's like 19 years old, and I got a lot of respect that fight because I showed I really have one of the biggest attributes to be a world champion, and that's heart and grit.
Mm,
So it was a learning experience. I moved from it. I learned from it. I gained more IQ. And for me, it was like the only thing that I felt like that person had on me was me making it personal. And to
mm,
me, it's never anything personal moving forward. It's a business because someone can hate me, they can hate my life, they can hate my family, whatever, and they could someone use that as fuel. But for me, it's business. I'm gonna handle the same way as if you said that, or the same way as if you didn't say it. Nothing's gonna change the outcome on what I'm gonna do to you this night. And that's kind of like how I see it. It's an entertainment business. When business is consistent, but emotions kind of go up and down. So I
mm.
learned from that, and I gained a lot of IQ. I continue to build my ring intelligence. Started working harder, and that's why I went on this 9 win streak. You know.
Yeah. You mentioned business, right? And I know when I spoke to you before, you mentioned business, entertainment, and things of that nature, right?
Hmm.
In the state of boxing, where do you feel like how much of it is boxing and business, or do you think it's kind of on an even playing field?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm more on that crossroad where I'm kind of in between.
Hmm
Where people are more talking more about me. And I think it's definitely a mixture, because you have the rankings. But at the end of the day, money talks. We all know that, right? Just like the fact that like some of these fighters from the UFC came up and they're fighting like a champion.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So we definitely know it's political.
right.
And also seeing what Jake Paul is doing with the sport, I think it's a lot of fighters they kind of have their love and their hate thoughts about it, but it's something I think is good for the sport because it's bringing more fans to boxing,
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, it's an entertainment business, as long as it doesn't become like WWE, I think we will have a problem, right? But overall, I think it's a mixture, you know.
yeah. You know what I admire about you? The fact that you stand on your faith. But
Hmm.
when you go into business, when you go inside the ring, it's about business. I'm here to knock you out. It is not personal. Has nothing to do with my religion and me, turning the other cheek and things of that nature. It's like you're able to turn it off and understand, like, hey, listen, I love what I do. I'm here to entertain the fans as well, and I want to put on a great performance because I want to get to those big paydays as well too. Um,
Hmm.
can you expound on that a little bit, like just the faith side and having to be a fighter?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Most importantly, I think one of the things that a lot of people say is turn the other cheek. And I think if you go, or I don't think, I know that if you go into the Greek transliteration, it's speaking more from insults, not physical attack. And I
Right.
think people sometimes get it twisted that we worship a soft God, but that's not true. We worship a meek God, a God who has full authority, who had At any time, at any moment, he could have snapped his finger and sent down a legion of angels to wipe the earth clean and flat,
Hmm.
you know. And we worship a God that's coming back, whose robe is going to be dripped in blood, and he's going to wage war upon evil deities of this world. So for me, it's just about meekness. It's about humility. Um, having the authority to do something and the power to do something, but also sharing grace. And that's how I walk my life. This is an anchor for me. Christianity and following Jesus is an anchor for me. And for me, that's my eternal purpose because I could go out, I could be a world champion, I could get a nice boat, I could buy a nice house. But at the end of the day, after my lifespan, it's going to all turn to dust. And then
Hmm.
it's going to just be left with emptiness. So I always chase this eternal purpose that is rooted in Christ. And that is the reason why I fight. That is the reason why I still box, is to be an influence, because that is one thing I could leave behind is influence.
Man, I remember you coming out in your fight and you had the cross and you was
Mhm.
giving it to a fan. And I seen you repeat yourself and was telling the fan to take it. But what was that interaction like? Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, because it was just like I said, I'm chasing my eternal purpose, being influential, spreading the word of God, sharing my belief, and I had the cross in there. And I knew I couldn't take it in the ring with me. So I was like, what what of a good moment, what 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 other opportunity would it be if right now I could just give it to a fan? And so I'm walking, I'm giving it to the fan. And I was like, here, man, God bless you. He looks at, he's like, what, me? He's like, and I was like, bro, take it. Take it. And it was like three times, like, bro, if you don't take this cross, bro, I'm just gonna toss it in the air or something. I can't go up to this ring. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was literally that moment. I think he was just more confused. Like he didn't expect it. He didn't expect me out of like he didn't expect me out of the whole crowd to turn to him because it was kind of like quick. I was like, but after he took it, he looked like he was appreciative, of it. But I think he was just more confused.
Now, has life changed for you now, right? Being part of Golden Boy Promotions, has life changed for you when you outside, people recognize you more, people asking for
Mm.
autographs? Has it been a difference so far?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, obviously in Texas, like it's my hometown.
Yeah.
So like I would be in the public or I'll go to a mall and some people will recognize me. Vegas is a little different, but after my fights here, people know my name now, and it's a great feeling because it's like it shows respect, it shows work, that work has prominent, you know, and it's definitely a good feeling, and I'm happy to be here in Vegas and make all these connections, and to just I like meeting people. I like meeting people, talking with people, and just connecting with other boxers, my fans and supporters. So it's definitely been a welcoming experience,
Mm.
and I feel like a deserving experience, being more recognized.
Listen, champ, that's beautiful, man. And I know sometimes it might even feel surreal after a while, right? It's just feel a little
Mm,
surreal. I got two more for you, champ. So I know you
mhm.
got the family and everything like that. So I want you to get to the family. But I gotta ask you, champ. You
Yeah.
climbing the mountains right now, champ. You climbing the
Mhm.
mountains. You 17 wins, 12 knockouts, champ. I remember seeing an interview where you said, "Listen, I want to fight the best," and you mentioned two names, two well-known names. You mentioned David Benavidez. You mentioned John Opataya.
Mhm.
Are those guys still on the radar for you, and
Mhm.
hopefully wanting to get in the ring with them?
Absolutely. Like I said before, how can anybody hate me for me doing my job and calling out the best? You
Mm,
know, these guys are supposedly called the boogeyman, and I got a bedtime story from them. So that's who I want. I want whoever is ahead of me. I want to fight the best, win, lose, or draw. Like I said, I'm here to test myself. There's always gonna be a group of people that hate me. There's always gonna be a group that loves me. But at the end of the day, they can't call me boring because they're
mm.
they're they're, they're going to continue watching. So that's my goal. If you don't think that I'm ready, well then allow me to prove it. If you do, well let me show you. So either way, it's a win for me. Either way, it's a win for me because I make my job easy. I stay ready. I stay consistent. I stay in the gym. I take care of my family, and I trust in God's divine planning. My job is to train my best for each fight, to do everything that I'm supposed to do in training camp, and win, lose or draw, I trust in God either way. So that's my stance is, and with that mindset, I'm more like how can I lose? So that's my belief. But like I said, how can anybody hate me for that? Well, you like a younger guy, a younger dog, is calling out the bigger dogs. And my thing is like, it's time for the older dog to stay on the porch and for the young dog to get the bone, man. It's time. It's time to go, man. I love it here. I feel like I'm in my prime. I got everything situated in my life. My family. I have something to fight for. My daughter right here, my wife. So I'm just gonna go along this process and have fun with it. Win, lose, or draw. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna do my best, and I believe if I do those things, I will be successful.
I'm in agreement with you, right? I always say, how can you hate a guy that wants to fight the best guys that's out there? Because isn't that what we want to see in the boxing world? We want to see guys fight the best of the best. We don't want to see guys fight some of the best guys when they get old and wash up, and then now there's 1,000 excuses to why that fighter won and why this fighter lost. I
Yeah.
want to be able to see you fight a David Benavidez, a Joe Apataya in
Hmm.
their prime because I think you're deserving. I know you're deserving of that. And I think it'll be a great fight. And I think stylistically, man, it'll do fireworks. So I'm rooting for you,
Yeah.
champ. I hope that you do get those fights, champ.
And I think that's where the political part plays in it. And I don't think the political part is bad at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a mixture, but you know, people like me because I'm a self package. I'm by nature entertaining. When I fight, I'm precise. I knock people out. I press forward. I box. I'm by nature entertaining. And when you bring two entertaining people together, it's dominant. People are going to buy tickets, and I think styles like that I have, the formula that I have, could beat a lot of these cruiserweights out there, like like a Jai, like a Benavidez,
Mm.
and those are the people who I want. Whoever's ahead of me is who I'm coming for. And my whole purpose in all of this isn't to store treasures for myself, but more so to proclaim the name of Jesus Christ. That's my whole
Mm.
purpose, and that's the only reason I'm still boxing. So I do this for the love of the game. I do this for my faith. I do this for my family. And win, lose, or draw, all of it is a learning experience. There is no losing. Because at the end of the day, man, I really don't care. I don't care the negative things that people have to say about me, you know, are the good things. I take them all. I take the good and I leave out the bad. Because at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna get old, you know, my belts are gonna get old, life is gonna get old, and there's
Mm.
going to be a new generation rising underneath the sun. So, you win a fight, and then the next day, people are back to their daily duties. So it's like knowing that, like, it makes me want to just do me, makes me want to be me. So, and I think a lot of people are going to see more of me this year because the Tea Party has many open reservations, and anybody could take a seat.
Hey,
So that's how I'm doing it.
hey, listen, y'all heard it yourselves. The myth, the legend. Hey, listen, Tristian, this was a phenomenal interview, brother. I appreciate your time and taking your time. You got your daughter with you. She look. Listen, I seen her fist by your neck, man. I don't know. She
I know
might
she got
have a
some big
strong
hands,
water,
you know?
champ. But I listen, champ. I appreciate everything that you do, and I'm just gonna have you end it here, brother. What can the fans be expecting from Tristian Kalkreuth moving forward, 2026 into 2027? What can they be expecting from you?
Hey, like I said, when I serve my tea, I serve it hot. So you could expect precision, explosiveness, entertainment, backflips, composure, everything that a fighter needs to be at a world champion level. That's what you're gonna see, right? Is that right, Tuti? Right? I think she's in agreement. So that is everything that my fans should be expecting. And my last fight was just a small glimpse. So I'm excited to keep building. I'm excited to keep learning, and I'm just gonna have fun, man. I'm gonna do this for the love of the sport, do this for the love of my family, my faith, and I'm gonna continue to connect with my fans to use these opportunities to be influential, to reach out to the homeless, reach out to the kids from foster homes, and to really make an impact um, and an influence before I leave this earth one day. So that's my goal and that's my mission.
Hey, listen, y'all heard it here first. This is Boxing Legends Lounge. I am your host, Legend. And today we had a very, very special guest on here. Go by the name of Tristian Kalkreuth. Tristian, we appreciate your time. I thank you.
Mm.
And God bless. And my blessings to you and your family.
Likewise, thank you, brother. God
No
bless.
problem. No problem.